I'll go. What a great title that would make for a book. Oh, that's right, I did write it. Available on Amazon, hint, hint. Go is a dominant theme of the Bible. The Lord said to Abraham, the father of our faith, go from your country to the land that I will show you. The Lord said to Moses, I have heard my people cry in their slavery. Go to Egypt, confront the Pharaoh, and lead my people to freedom. The Lord said to Amos, leave your herds, leave your sycamore trees, and go. Preach to my people Israel. Jesus said to his disciples, go and make disciples of all nations. My 71 years in ministry can be summarized in the word go. When I was 18 years old, the Lord said, go and preach and pastor 2 small Minnesota churches. After graduating from Hamline University, the Lord said, go to Japan for 3 years and be a missionary teacher. After returning from Japan, Ellie married me, and off we went to Evanston, Illinois, to Garrett Theological Seminary. And on the occasion of my 50th anniversary of graduation, the seminary established Douglas and Eleanor Norris Scholarship Fund. And many of you have contributed to it, and many students have benefited by it. One of which was Jordan Aspiris. Is she here this morning? I heard she was coming. She must have heard I was preaching. Anyway, Jordan Aspiris, granddaughter of Mary Ann Michael, was one of the recipients, and she is now ministering in Chicago. Our first summer in seminary, the Lord said, go to Texas. And off we went to Angora Goat Country in Rock Springs, where I was the substitute pastor for 2 months, and what a glorious experience that was. Then I did weekend youth ministry in a suburban South Chicago church, and then weekend youth ministry in a downtown African American church, where Ellie taught Sunday school. And using Methodist curriculum, she had to explain to children what is a cow. After graduating from seminary, the Lord said, go to rural Minnesota and help design and implement a cooperative parish. 10 churches and 4 pastors worked as a team. When I developed serious sinus problems and was threatened with chronic laryngitis, kind of bad for my career, the Lord said, go to Palo Alto. So 54 years ago, pulling a travel trailer, we came to Palo Alto. And then the Lord said, go to Manteca, go to Modesto, and go back to Palo Alto. And then to Merced. After I retired, the Lord said, go do interim pastorates in Paradise Valley in Glendale, Arizona, in Wesley Church, San Jose, and guess what? Back to Palo Alto. Then the Lord said, go camp in Minnesota, and this church I conducted children and youth camps all summers and on weekends. And then the Lord said, go direct family camp. So I jumped at the opportunity for our family to be together in a camp. And what a blessing family camp has been. Our youngest son, Craig, met his wife, Laura. Raise your hands. And their darling children. All right. While we were in Manteca, the Lord said, go get a Doctor of Ministry degree. The classwork was arranged so I could participate. I did all the classwork. And then when it was time to write the dissertation, the Lord said, change of plans, go to Australia. So we went to Australia for a 4-month exchange, and what a glorious experience that was. Then the Lord said, go walk to Emmaus, which is not a physical walk, but a weekend retreat. A couple from Ohio were worshiping with us, and we're doing special work at Stanford. And they paid my way to go to Ohio and to be on a walk. 5 of them paid their way and came to this church and conducted the first walks, of which there were several right in our buildings. For information how you can participate, talk to Steve Wood. Raise your hand, Steve Wood, who is very active in the Walk to Emmaus. I firmly believe the Lord also calls you to go. We could go around the room this morning and hear fascinating stories of how God is using so many of you in ministry. The Lord said to Brenda and Nancy, go to Africa. But even if you are not called to go somewhere else, you are called to do ministry where you are. God calls you into ministry to do God's work. You may not necessarily be in the limelight, but visible ministries cannot succeed without background workers. Charles Plum was a jet fighter pilot in Vietnam. 75 missions he conducted, 75, and then his plane was hit by a missile. He ejected and parachuted down into enemy territory. For 6 years, he was in a communist prison. Years later, he and his wife were in a restaurant, and a man came up and said, "You're Plum. You were a jet fighter in Vietnam from the aircraft carrier Kitty Hawk. You were shot down." Well, Charles was quite surprised by the man, who then said, "I packed your parachute. I guess it worked." Charles could not sleep that night. He wondered how many times had he seen this man but never noticed him, never said, "Good morning, how are you?" He never took the time to find out who packed his parachute or to thank the man. After all, he was a jet fighter pilot, and the packer was only a sailor. Now, Charles Plum asks people, who is packing your parachute? Who is in your background? And ministry cannot happen without quiet people working in the background. Don't think that what you do for the Lord is small or insignificant. Where is the Lord calling you? What is the Lord calling you to do? Don't think you have little or nothing to offer. We all have mouths, and we all know how to talk. Milton Cunningham was a missionary on leave when he rode the airplane from Atlanta to Dallas. And seating next to him was a young girl who had Down syndrome. And the little girl said to him, "Mister, did you brush your teeth this morning?" He was a little surprised and awkwardly said, "Well, yes, I brushed my teeth." She said, "That's good. People should brush their teeth." Then she said, "Mister, do you smoke?" He said, "No, I don't smoke." "Good," she says, "because smoking will make you die." Then she said, "Mister, get a drink of water." "No." Then she said, Mister, do you love Jesus? Well, that was easy. He said, yes, I love Jesus. She said, good, everybody should love Jesus. Then a man came and sat next to Milton. Took out his magazine, began reading. And the little girl poked Milton, asked him if he brushed his teeth this morning. Milton said, no. Yes, ask him. So he said, sir, I'm sorry to bother you, but did you brush your teeth this morning? My friend wants to know. Well, the man, surprised, looked over and saw her and smiled and said, yes, I brushed my teeth. Milton could see what was coming when she asked the man if he smoked. Then she said, ask the man if he loves Jesus. No, that's too personal. That's too personal. You can't ask things like that. Ask him if he loves Jesus. So Milton said, now she wants to know if you love Jesus. He turned and looked at Milton with tears in his eyes and said, my life is so meaningless. I've been looking and looking for something. And he told Milton how he wanted to find God, but he didn't know how. So Milton told him about Jesus. And he led the man to give his life to Christ. We all have mouths. We all can talk. We all can be aware of people around us and sensitive to people and encourage them. We all can talk about Jesus. We all can pack parachutes. We all can go wherever God leads us. Amen? Go.